have an interesting person. Today's class is going to be so much fun. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Dr. Aaron Farrant. Dr. Farrant is the headmaster at the Christ School and the first adult guest on the Tiberius show.
You know, Tiberius, that is the third time today someone's introduced me like that. That is fantastic. Yeah, pleasure to be on your show. Excited to be back.
So, first off, how are you enjoying being back on the show?
Love it. You know, really, when the first time we came together, we were talking and we were figuring things out. And, just the growth you've had just with equipment, with your personality, with the way that you're doing it. You're doing a great job, and it is a pleasure to be back.
So, for my 100th show, it made perfect sense to have you because you were the first adult guest, and you have known me for over 2 years. Have I changed a lot in those years?
I don't think you've changed a lot. I remember you from the very beginning being very happy, energetic, curious, fun, and I see all those things in you today. I just feel like you're a little older version of that, and maybe even a little more of all those things. I think as you're more coming into your own. So, you're
maybe
the same.
Maybe a little teenager-y, but
don't get too far ahead of yourself. Now, you got a little way to go on that one, but
yeah,
you're working towards it.
Only 4 more years until I'm a teenager. The reason why you know me is that you're the headmaster of the Christ School, and that I go to every day. So what's the best part about being the headmaster of the Christ School?
The best part about being the headmaster of the Christ School, it's got to be really being with the kids and the staff, really being able to take time. You can do 1,000 different things as a career.
Yeah.
But I get to spend my time really investing in students, building a great school, helping them grow spiritually and academically and socially, and I work with incredible people, and we have great families, and I would say really the ability to invest in kids and to work with some incredible people.
Okay. So, when you were here before, you were just starting the job with the headmaster. Now that you have been here for a while, are you still enjoying that as much as when you started?
I am enjoying it a lot. Now, this whole COVID thing over the last 6 months has brought a whole new level of challenge and figuring stuff out. I think it's for everybody in the whole world, but especially for a school, figuring out how to do that well and really take care of the kids well and provide great academics and all that stuff. So it's definitely been more challenging, but I love it just as much, if not more.
It's really hard to know what you're going to do. It's really hard to know what you're going to do about school and what's going to happen, because you're going to have to go back to the school. Not just do virtual learning.
Gonna have to go back to the school? Tiberius, I expect to say, we can't wait to go back to the school. We get to go back to the school. Don't do this all we have to go back to the school stuff.
So what is the one thing about this job that you did not expect when you started?
COVID. I did not expect that. No, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff you always expect. Some things are a little different here and there, and but there's no question. If you're asking me what is the one thing that has happened since I've been there that was the least expected, it's got to be this. This is, it's crazy for everybody, but as leading a school, it's very, very different.
Yeah, it's very different. So what is the hardest part about being the headmaster of a private school?
I think it's really taking care of the students and families, because you have people who are all different. They're all over the world. What they think, what they want, what they need, and so really being able to take care of all of the families at the same time, it really is challenging. And having to think through decisions for our school when it affects so many different families that have so many different perspectives and experiences and desires, really taking care of everybody well is a challenge. One that I enjoy, but it is definitely challenging to do.
So, in the last 2 years, what was the most fun thing to happen while working at the Christ School?
Okay, my favorite part of the entire school year, it's always the same. It's the very first day of school, and it's in middle school, and so there's the house system. Do you know about the houses at our school? It's a middle school thing.
Yes.
So each person in middle school is in a different house, and they compete against each other in different competitions, academic and athletic and arts and all these different competitions. They fight for points. There's a big trophy every month and all this great fun stuff that we do. Really building groups and making people feel connected and really having a place.
It's really kind of like Hogwarts.
Hey, maybe that was a little bit of where the idea came from. We don't know, right? But yeah, so the very first day. So for the reveal, we don't have the magic hat here. But what we do is the new students come and they have this balloon with their name on it. It's a black balloon. and they go up in front of everybody in middle school, and all the 7th and 8th graders, they're already in their spots, right? So there's Eagle Soar and Equus Run, and they're already all the different houses are in their teams, and they have all their shirts on, their colors, and everything. And then a 6th grader comes in, and they hold up this balloon, right? It's got their name on it, and they take this pin and they pop it, right? And inside of it is filled like purple confetti or blue or red or orange, whatever house they're in, and it just explodes, right? An explosion of color. And then all of a sudden you have a fourth of the 7th and 8th graders are like, yes, you're with us. And they run over and they're high-fiving the 6th graders and they're giving them big hugs and carrying them over. And they put the new shirt on them for their houses. And middle school is a weird time. You're going to get there in a couple 2 years. It's a weird time and you're figuring yourself out and all this stuff's happening. But to know that your very first day, you have all these 7th graders that are cheering you on, that are you're with us, you've got a place. And seeing the nervous 6th grader face, you know, when they're walking up there, and then just this kind of smile. Some of them try to hide the smile. Some of them are just all into it. You know, each personality kind of comes out in that moment.
Yep.
But that kind of warmth and welcome and just acceptance and love from your peers is hands down my favorite moment every single year.
Okay. So now that we have had a more difficult year this year because we had to leave school early and do virtual learning. Was it hard to change from in the classroom to in the home learning?
Oh, absolutely. So it's something that we didn't plan for, right?
Yeah.
And so we were getting ready for spring break, if you remember the time last year. And so there was like, it's kind of like the week before spring break, we're kind of starting to notice like, okay, things may be different. Things may need to change. And so you're just starting to kind of figure that out, but it's not really sure where it's really going to go. I mean, it's so fluid, everybody's kind of figuring stuff out. And then right around that kind of Friday, Saturday is when we really kind of realized like, no, this is really going to happen. And we're going to have something different when we get back. And so building up to the week or two before, we started getting a couple contingency plans built. And then when that hit, we really were like, okay, we got to do this. And so flipping to a remote learning platform really over spring break week was crazy. It was crazy. And so we're having to figure out all these different kind of things. And so how we're going to do that? What's the best method? There are a couple different ways you can do it. What's going to still provide great academics? How do we train our teachers? How do we get platforms ready? So it was quite the challenge, Tiberius.
Yeah, it's
quite the
kind
challenge.
of crazy.
It was very crazy, but I think we did a great job. I think I'm so proud of our faculty and staff. Our families partnered with us so well. Really, we came out of that for what it was very, very positively. So it was exciting.
So now school is getting ready to start again, and we get to get back to the classrooms. Did you have to make a lot of changes because of social distancing?
Before I answer your question, I just want to say how proud I am of you. You know why?
Why?
You just said, we get to go back to class. And I'm telling you what, that is a good shift from where you were just a few minutes ago. So I am proud of you, young man. But to answer your question, yes. Yes, I did have to do a lot of changes. We have had so many meetings, Tiberius, trying to figure out, okay, how do we really keep everybody safe, right? Make sure that COVID happens, how do we keep that from spreading? How do we protect our students, our faculty and staff? How do we do all that? But how also do we capture the great academics that already occur? How do we not lose that? How do we not lose some of the great aspects of our school that make it such a special place? Like, the house reveal. How do we keep that, but do it in a way that's safe for COVID? And so we've gone through all different parts of our school, looking at it. And so we've really put together quite a robust and big plan of how we're going to be able to accomplish those, and a lot of conversation, a lot of debate over what we can do and can't do, and how we can do things differently, what we can keep and find a way to differently, and what we need to let go for the time being.
So, what if one of my listeners wants to grow up and run a private school? What advice would you give him or her?
And they want to run a private school. So what if a listener wants to grow up and be a head of school or a headmaster? That's a good question. What should they do? First off, I would say find some people that have done it. Always, whenever you want to really learn something, I think there's a great balance you got to take between experience and formal education. So for me, for instance, I've gone to school way too much, Tiberius. It's a great thing. I love it. I have 5 degrees. I don't know if I've ever told you that. So have 5 college degrees. So go to school a lot. Got a lot of formal training. Got access to a lot of people who have been doing independent schooling for a long time. I also worked at a great school in Atlanta. Learned so much from there. The head of school up there was willing to mentor me. So when you find someone who does a really good job at it, you can spend some time with them and really learn from them. So I was able to do that. I was able to be in a great place, and I think I've heard this before. Like, greatness rubs off on you. So when you can be around people who do a great job and really care about excellence, it starts to kind of shape the way you view things and kind of where your standards are. And so I would say so I guess to shorten my answer down because I'm going a little long-winded, is find a great school with someone who leads it, who's really good at it, and really spend time with them, listen to them, ask them questions, be willing to explore, be willing to try new things, and then also get formal education so you can understand kind of that level also, and then they kind of come together. I think you'll be well prepared. And at the end, really be there for the right reasons, which is really to love kids and to help them grow.
Mm-hmm. So if you're going to go back 10 years and tell yourself something, what would it be?
It would be just to love the next 10 years of your life. Honestly, it has been such a joy. Over the last 10 years is when my second child was born, when my first child grew up. It was when I moved to Florida. It was when I came to the Christ School. When I met you, right? All the big milestones.
Yes.
No, but it has been really meeting the students and the families, and it has been a fantastic journey.
It's been a fantastic journey. Well, now because you have seen my show for 2 years, what is the one episode that you like the best?
So, not to be self-seeking here, but I would say our first episode. And while I know you had some great guests that were way cooler than I am and did a lot of cool stuff, I would say the first one because I enjoyed being with you. And I enjoyed talking, and I enjoyed doing this process with you and kind of laughing together and kind of just discussing different things. And so, while there maybe the general public would say there was a cooler guest on your show at some point, I would say my favorite was the one that we got to do together because we got to do it together.
Yeah, true. So what was the biggest mistake you ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
That's a deep question, Tiberius. The biggest mistake I have ever made. Wow, is that big? And what did I learn from it? That is not easy to answer. Let me think for a second. My biggest mistake I've ever made. I don't have a good answer for you, Tiberius. I can tell you other mistakes that I've made. The biggest one, that is a high bar. Can I give you a silly one instead?
Yes.
Okay. Let me give you a silly one. It's kind of a crazy story, so it's a fun story. But at least it's a mistake I made that turned out kind of weird. So I was young, like 3 or 4 years old. Okay? And in my neighborhood, there was a slide. Okay, have you ever been on one of those slides that kind of goes in a loop, kind of circles around?
Yes.
Okay. So there was one in my neighborhood, and the first couple rungs were missing from the slide. Okay? So they'd taken this big rock, and they had put it on there, right? Put it so you can climb on the rock and then climb on the steps and get to the top. So I had climbed the rocks, and I was a little guy. My mom was down there. My little brother was playing somewhere else on the playground. And I climbed the top. And then, for whatever reason, I was like, look, no hands, right, at the top of the slide. Right? So I was on the top step. Look, no hands. What do you think happened next?
You fell.
I fell. And remember, I am little, Tiberius, like half your size. And I fell all the way down. Oh, wait. And so I hit my chin on the big rock at the bottom. Okay? Oh, just wait. It gets worse, Tiberius. So when I did, somehow I stuck my tongue out, right? So I'm falling, whatever. Hit my chin on this rock. Teeth right through my tongue. Wham! Right? So now there is a hole in my tongue. Like, stick your finger through my tongue kind of hole. Okay? And so my mom is an amazing woman. Okay? I'm sure you know. Moms, amazing, right?
Yes.
And so she was like, she didn't take me to the doctor. It's a different age, Tiberius. Back then, no, they didn't do that kind of stuff. At least my mom didn't. And she's like, so she took me home, right? I was home for hours. And then my dad comes home from work, and he's like, my mom's name's Terry. And he's like, she tells me what happened. She's like, Terry, take that boy to the doctor. And she's like, it's a tongue. What are they going to do? Now, granted, Tiberius, I have a hole big enough to stick a finger through in my tongue. And she's like, it'll be fine, right? As a 4-year-old, 4-year-old. So anyway, so they took me to the doctor. Doctor uses dissolvable stitches my tongue up, and does that. But But I did learn one thing, Tiberius. Even yesterday when I was on the swirly slide, I did not take my hands off of the rails. I held on tight the whole way up.
Okay. Something to learn.
So don't let go of the bar when you're up high. That's what I want to share with you, Tiberius. Change your life.
So, I reviewed a video game that was also a board game. What is your favorite board game? Is it still Acquire?
It is still Acquire. Tiberius! How do you know that, young man? It's been 99 episodes. Yes, I love Acquire. High strategy games. Like Carcassonne you were talking about earlier. High strategy game. Love those, yes. It is a fantastic game. Turn-based game. Tons of choices. Different every time you play it. Now I just got to talk people into playing it because it's like over an hour.
Yeah.
But I love that game, Tiberius.
Okay, so what is your favorite book to read besides the Bible?
So yes, Bible is number one. Number two. So I really like to read books that really help you improve at stuff. So I'm not I know some people are all into the kind of the pleasure reading stories. That's not me, Tiberius. Usually when I'm reading books, and I read quite a bit, but it's about how do I learn, right? How do I grow? How do I make myself better? Be able to help the school better. So my favorite one is Good to Great.
Okay.
So I really like that. It's kind of an older book now, but I still look back at it every once in a while and try to figure out, how do you take something that's really good, like our school, and how do you really get to greatness, and how do you really sustain greatness? You ever read that book?
No.
Fantastic. You probably could read in a couple of years. You're probably close to it.
Maybe. Okay. Now can you tell me that one story? Remember, this is a kid's show, but then one story, that you're not supposed to tell me about. Come on, you can tell me.
That one story? Is this back to my biggest mistake kind of story? I don't know what that would be, Tiberius.
But you're very funny.
A funny story. I got stories, but I don't know about a funny one. Yeah, I can tell you all kinds of stories about crazy things that have happened to me. I don't know about an age-appropriate story. That's kind of interesting. They're all age-appropriate. I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying you're asking me for one that's not, and all my stories are age-appropriate, Tiberius. That's the problem.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you think my listeners should know about you?
No, just that I love being on the Tiberius show. If you ever get the privilege to come on here, take him up on it. This is an incredible young man, and you'll have a lot of fun. This has been a very fun experience.
Well, if you could teach me something that would improve my show, what would it be?
Improve your show. Don't ask people for stories that are not age-appropriate.
Oh, yay. We're going to have a lot of fun with that one. Well, do you have a website or Facebook from my listeners that want to follow you?
No, I actually stopped Facebook years ago. I know. It was a time suck for me where, man, you start going down the rabbit hole of all the old acquaintances, and 3 hours would pass, and they're like, what's happened the last 3 hours? So I actually got off Facebook. For a website, I tell you, thechristschool.org. Best website ever.
Yup. What is the one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
You forgot to ask me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you asked me a lot of questions. I would actually, can I ask you a question? So you put me in the hot seat here this whole time. How about I turn it around on you?
Oh, yay.
That's the question. You should have asked me, what question would you like to ask me? That's what was missing.
Well, what question would you like to ask me?
Well, I think it's only appropriate. Can I ask you two? You've given me quite...
Sure.
Okay. One, what have you learned in the last 100 episodes?
Oh, yay. What I have learned a lot of other people's jobs and what happens in those jobs and what they do. We had one that's a clown at the hospital.
That's pretty cool.
And we had someone, and it was so funny because they work at the hospital, and we now know that their favorite game is Candy Crush, and they're on like level 1,376 or something.
That's a lot of
And
time
I'm
on
like,
Candy Crush.
"Whoa." Yeah, so we had a lot of different people.
But what's the coolest job? Who has the coolest job, Tiberius? Whose job would you like the most when you grow up? Because it's super cool and awesome and amazing.
Yours.
Yeah, good man. Good man. Way do you play to your audience? Okay, second question. What was your worst mistake, age appropriate or not, that you want to share with me as your head of school, who is in charge of your school and watches you all the time? What is that going to be?
Wait, what?
What is it? What's your biggest mistake and what'd you learn?
My biggest mistake is to never go downstairs again. Because I was going downstairs.
Uh-huh.
Ready to go bowling. And I had my bowling ball in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, this is never
Why are you walking with your bowling ball in your hand down the
Well, because I was going to the lane.
You keep going.
I was going down to the lane so that I could put my ball in the rack. I was,
this is at the bowling alley.
Yes, this is at the bowling alley.
Got it.
So I was washing it. I was going down the stairs. After I finished, I put it down. I was getting ready to bowl. So I went. Then I bowled. But something happened.
What?
It let go right here. And
No.
then it
the
landed
toe?
on my
Is it
toe.
the toe?
And then it rolled. And then I tripped. And then this.
Did you bite a hole in your tongue?
No.
Oh, that would
I'm lucky.
That would have been so cool right now.
I'm like,
See, you're smart. When you yell, pull your tongue back.
Yes.
Don't stick it out.
Don't
Always.
stick it out.
That's a good tip for your audience. When you yell, when you're
I was
falling,
bleeding.
tongue in, not tongue out.
I was bleeding. And my dad like, oh no. And then and I was crying. I'm like, I want to go home. And my dad said, are you gonna stay here? Are you a quitter?
Ooh.
Or are you gonna keep going?
Dads are great like that, aren't they?
Yup.
Yeah.
And do you know what I said?
What?
I'm gonna keep on going. I'm gonna
Good choice,
finish the
Tiberius.
fight.
That's like back here. Keep fighting, right?
Yeah, keep fighting. Keep fighting it. We'll keep fighting COVID-19 and it'll all be over with.
There you go.
Yup.
Just keep it going.
Yup. Well, will you be ready for another interview for show 200?
Hey, I'm in. Every 100 episodes, you give me the call and I'll answer.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Farrant, for being my first guest. Can you stick around for math pointers?
I think I can do that.